And welcome back. It's Millennial Mental Health Channel. I'm here with Eddie Carrillo, the TV star. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm fine. I'm not a TV star.
Well, as someone who's now been on TV twice in the past 2 months, I'm sure that you're just people are recognizing you left and right. The Kardashians are going to have you on their next season. It's going to be pretty impressive.
I'd rather not. I'll pass on the Kardashians. I will say, I'm going to be honest. When Kevin and I go to the gym, they have a lot of the TVs have like the news on it, and they do have the channel that I was on. And a couple of times I've like looked, just like, come on, are they going to rerun that? They have not. So no recognizing in the streets. But my place of employment, my school, has been very supportive, and it has been pretty cool that some of the students have seen it and they've like come up to me like, "Oh, I saw you. My teacher played the video." So that's been cool.
Very cool. And for those of you guys who didn't check out our social media, Eddie got to go on the Portland KOIN news station and talk about mental health. He did a fantastic job. If you guys are interested in hearing, it was mostly in regard to mass shootings, I do believe. Yeah.
It was not the happiest one, but I thought it was cool. I really appreciated the chance to just feel like an expert. That's the other thing, is that I didn't know this, but after they do things like that, segments like that, they'll make basically an article where they just take quotes that I put and like put in filler words. And the last 2 times I've done a segment with them, they refer to me as a mental health expert. And I know one time we had a moment on the show where you're like, "We are mental health experts." I'm like, "Shit, you're right." And so it's just cool. It's cool to see it. It's cool to see my name in an article, my face on the TV, or at least on the video recording after I watch it. So yeah, it's a cool experience. I appreciate them. The second time they reached out to me because I'd already done the one, so that felt pretty cool.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So we wanted to give a quick shout out to Eddie for his amazing television performance. We also want to give a big shout out to our audience for sticking with us, hanging out. Wanted to give you guys a quick reminder. Please subscribe to the show. If you listen or have listened to a couple episodes and you really want to help us out and support us, do it right now. Pick up your phone and subscribe, because I know every time I hear that on a podcast and I try and, I'll do it at the end of the podcast. I never do it, so just do it right now. That would help us tremendously.
When you said pick up the phone, I think of like the old infomercials, like, pick up the phone now for 4 easy payments of $299. Like, goddamn, bro. Good thing you had to be 18 or older, because I would have been paying for dumb stuff.
I know, man. Do you remember any old phone numbers from commercials back in the day?
Yeah, 678-999-8212.
What's
Do you
that
know what
one?
number that is?
Uh-uh.
It's the number in "Kiss Me Through the Phone" by Soulja Boy. That's not a commercial, but do you remember any numbers?
I remember the 800-988-2300 Empire. Womp.
Today. Oh, I thought it was today.
I just thought it was a womp. That's could have.
We're gonna have to look it up later. It's fine. All right. Without further ado, I'm gonna take this part because it's Justin's turn to get showered in love and support. We've been waiting very patiently. I've sent enough angry emails to TEDx Omaha of like, when the hell is this shit coming out? And it finally released. If you saw on our Instagram, if you are friends with us in real life and follow us on Instagram and the Facebook, you've seen it there. Justin's TEDx finally dropped. It was amazing. I have been flexing on my coworkers that I have a friend that has done this. I've shared it with the health class if they want to share it with the students. It's up to there's a little bit of provocative topic. I think the students can handle it, but it is very good, very informative. Justin's TED Talk is here. We're going to talk all about TED Talks, TEDx, the history of it, how Justin prepared, what it was like, everything in between. So that's what we're focusing on today. And I found this out right before we started recording. Justin was able to get the audio for it. So it's going to be at the end of the episode. We're going to get to listen to it. If you keep listening towards it, we'll finish up, and then Justin will take over with his TEDx audio. Justin does want you all to know that the video of it he feels is better. I thought the video was really cool, so feel free to check it out on YouTube after. It already has like almost 1,000 views, which is super cool, considering that it's like a 15-minute video and having that many views. So without further ado, we are here. Welcome to Justin's TEDx talk.
Hey, we always like to start off with a story time, too. So I'll give you a little bit of background of my history with TED. But TED Talks have been a huge part of my life for a long time. I used to just put them on autoplay and watch TED Talks for hours. They've taught me so many valuable lessons and helped shape my ideas about life and people, psychology, the universe, biking, education. Like, I've learned and grown so much from TED Talks. So I couldn't think of anything more important to me to be a part of because they've been such an influence in my life. So way back when we had Jeff Koterba on, the artist, on the show, he was talking about how he gave a TED Talk because he had done one about his own experience with Tourette's. So he put in a good word for me, and then I actually had to apply for it. So in most TEDx, and so the difference between TEDx and regular TED is that TEDx tend to be more independently organized, but you can usually apply to those. So if you've got a topic that you're passionate about and want to share it and have the platform of TED, you could probably apply to a TEDx event in your area. So I had to send in a written application with kind of a broad idea of what I wanted to do. Then I had to make a 3-minute video of what I wanted to do. So you have to have some tech skills, be able to record these things, piece it all together. Yeah. And then I actually had to do a live 5-minute interview over Zoom and present a mini presentation on what I was thinking, what I wanted to do. And that was a little stressful too. But a couple of months went by as they sorted through all the applications. They actually said they had hundreds of applicants from all over the world. Damn. Because a lot of people want to do TED Talks, even in areas they don't live close to, but it's like one of their dreams to do a TED Talk. So they get people from Europe, all over the place. And so it took them a couple months to get through all of it. But then around June, and just to kind of give you a timeline, the TED Talk was in November, so quite a bit of time. So I got accepted in June, and they released all the TED speakers. So I had about 5 months to prepare, which is a long time to prepare for a 15-minute speech. Yeah. In July, we started getting together for workshops with all the speakers. And the workshops were actually held with professional public speaking coaches to get us in the right mindset. What's our purpose? What's our through line? What do we want to get across? I actually had a coach that was assigned, and she's got a very unique, awesome name. Her name is Strawberry Blue Olive. And she was
dope.
I know. Such a cool name. Yeah. So I want to give her a huge shout out because it was just awesome working with her, and she gave me so much good feedback. And she actually has the license for TEDx Omaha, so she runs the whole show. Wow. She's kind of a badass. So it was an absolute honor to work with her. And she's just got a lovely English accent as well, which is just so fun. Just so fun to work with.
You know how we feel about English accents on this show, so huge plus.
Huge plus. So I worked my butt off. I was practicing, especially towards the end there, that last month. I was practicing every day. I was meeting with Strawberry a couple of times a week to run through it, practice it. She'd give me the formal feedback, and I'd have to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. But it was such a good process for learning how to do that public speaking, the type of refinement that you need to do to get there. Yeah. And it got to the point where I was even obsessing a little bit about doing the TED Talk. There were a few times where my wife actually woke up in the middle of the night and found me rehearsing in front of the bathroom mirror, like obsessing. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop going through it in my head, and I even found myself almost, I've been working with a lot of people with OCD recently because I've been in an eating disorders clinic. But even I found myself having to run through it at least one complete time without any mistakes before I was able to fall asleep at night. So a little bit on the OCD side, but healthier and without the insight. Eddie, tell me about. Go for it.
I have to just say this. when you said that a couple times, like Dana would find you like rehearsing in front of the mirror, I think of the meme where it's like when you're looking for the person to blame, and it's the person like pointing in the mirror to themselves.
It's me.
Yeah.
I'm the problem. It's me.
Are we okay with Taylor Swift here? I don't know. I feel like there's been controversy over the years. I don't really know what the controversy is. That's how easily swayed I am. She's controversial. I don't know why.
I actually recently just saw she did an e-cigarette advertisement a couple of years ago.
Oh,
and so she's a little bit on my shit list for that. But
she's teetering. She's in between okay and not okay. Anyway, before you ask the question, I also I'm gonna take this time to just shout Justin out. Like, it was super cool to watch. I have to say, I was watching it and being like, I know this guy. I work with this man. He's one of my good friends. One of like the best co-host. Sorry, every other co-host possible. The best co-host possible. Like, it's fucking cool to see. So you get another few seconds of love. You deserve it, dude. That shit is so cool. Please, seriously, if you haven't seen it, this is what you need to do if you're listening. Listen to the whole audio on this episode. Then go watch it again. Because it was that good. It is so cool to watch. So shout out again to you, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. Sometimes I feel a little awkward when accepting praise, but man, I worked so hard on this that it feels good to have that feedback of people told me that they really enjoyed it, that it really helped them think about smartphone addiction in a different way. I guess we haven't talked about what it's actually about yet.
It's just a TED Talk. Just watch it. I don't even care. Just watch the thing. That's a great point. Yeah. Tell us what it's about.
It's about smartphone addiction. I'll talk a little bit about the topic later, but first, Eddie, tell me about some important TED Talks in your life and something that made an impact on you.
Yeah, two of them came to mind in preparation for this episode. The first one is by Dr. Meg Jay. She's a clinical psychologist. She wrote one of my all-time favorite books called The Defining Decade. A mentor. She used to be an advisor for a club that I was president of in college. She gave it to me and just said, I read this book. I really like it. And it was all about basically your 20s and like the awkward phases you go through in your 20s in relation to work, money, love, everything in between. And it was just so informative and like such a good read. And I really appreciated like her perspective and how much it felt like normal to be in this weird 20s phase. So I really like it. I recommend it to all when I was working in like a community mental health clinic and at the hospital. I recommend it to anybody that's going into like their 18, 19s, in their 20s. I really think it's a great book. The second one, this was one that I saw when I was in grad school. It was a woman by the name of Eleanor Longden, and we watched it in my psychopathology class, and she talks about her experience of going to college and then almost directly after the development of her symptoms of schizophrenia. She talks about how one day she was like leaving a room, she heard a voice in her head, and then she went on to share how from that moment the voices would just kind of increase, and they would talk to her about emotions, they would comment on her daily life, almost just someone like watching her life unfold each day, and like would comment as she's going through her day. She even mentioned like after a certain point that the voices became almost comforting, like she had somebody, a partner basically, to go through life with her. She eventually shared that she told her symptoms and what was going on to a friend. She started to reach out for help. She eventually was hospitalized multiple times because of what happened afterwards. You know, after you experience psychosis and have these hallucinations, sometimes suicidal thoughts, potential harm to yourself, those are symptoms that come about afterwards. So really just talked about her journey going through all of it. And I don't need to go through all the details. You are the more important part today, Justin. But really, it was very impactful to be in a psychopathology class, to learn about someone's firsthand experience was really impactful. One of the quotes, I put a couple quotes from it because I rewatched it before this episode because it was just that important to me. She said, her psychiatrist said, "Eleanor, you'd be better off with cancer because cancer is easier to cure than schizophrenia. And that was pretty early on in her treatment journey and learning what was going on and what she'd have to do to get better. She was able to eventually make a positive recovery. She shared how she was able to improve. And one of her really good quotes about just psychiatry and mental health in general was, an important question in psychiatry shouldn't be what's wrong with you, but rather what's happened to you. Really talks about, and we've mentioned it a few times, but just the importance of how trauma and just impacts of events have on our life and what they can eventually lead to. But thankfully for Eleanor, she's really made a positive recovery. She's gone on to be an advocate for those who are working through schizophrenia, and she ended up getting her master's and has done a lot of work as a researcher and as part of the Hearing Voices network that helps to empower those that deal with mental distress. So really cool TED Talk. Really recommend it for anyone, not just anyone that's in the field, but just a really cool TED Talk to hear her experience.
I think I've actually seen that one too, and it is so cool. I do credit those TED Talks and a lot of TED Talks for teaching me about mental health issues, allowing me to actually see people with schizophrenia and talk about it, and that in and of itself was so useful for me in my own career and personal development and growth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So tell us, how did you get to the topic? How did we get here? We still haven't even said what the title is, but tell us. Let's hear it.
So the title is Smartphones, It's time to address our global addiction. Because we actually did a whole episode on phone addiction. And diving into some of the data on phone addiction gave me a great springboard for the TED Talk. Mm-hmm. The episode had a lot of downloads, and it showed that people were really interested in this topic, although I do think a lot of people have denial or are in denial about smartphone addiction because they don't want to address their addiction, which is a really bad part of addictions. So I was thinking to myself, like, what would be the most important topic I could do that people really need to hear? And this just became so clear in my mind that I needed to do this. And honestly, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, to quote Zoolander, because no one seems to be talking about phone addiction right now. No one in the mental health world is taking it really seriously. No one in politics, not really in schools either. No one's putting the resources into studying this that we really need right now to try and get in front of this. It's not happening. And that shocked me because it is becoming such a global pandemic of addiction, but we as a society, as a world, have not even really admitted that it's a problem yet. So the new DSM-5, and I know we talk a lot about the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual on the show. That's where we get all of our diagnoses in mental health. That's like our Bible, our structure. So the new TR came out, which stands for text revision. And I was so excited because I thought for sure they've got to put smartphone or something about social media addiction in there. They've just got to, because it's such a huge problem. And there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing in there. And it just really feels like so many things in our society, like smartphones, the obesity epidemic, the smoking epidemic, are major corporations preying on the addictions of children. But no one's really doing anything about it, and that's so upsetting to me. I've seen lots of young people become addicted to their phones, especially because now I'm so much more aware of it. I'm asking more kids about their social media use, their screen times. I've had patients in my clinic who are up to 12 hours a day of screen time. I even had one kid that was on 12 hours, and that was with restrictions. His parents cut off at 12 hours, and then he would ask parents for more time, and if he didn't get it, he would lose it. He would blow up. So it's bad. That there are kids addicted to this. And if you're on your phone for 12 hours, half of your entire existence is on your phone, and that's including sleep. I feel like my eyes hurt thinking about 12 hours of screen time. Like, my goodness. I will say real quick, I wanted to add, as I was watching your TED Talk, and it's obviously because we talk so much, but there's so many points in it that I use in my presentation when I go to the health class and talk about like internet use, social media, internet safety, that it's like,
you have also ingrained in me, which is really helpful. Just the importance of, and I tell the kids, like, I have to, like, understand, like, school is centered around technology in your computer. Everybody gets a Chromebook when you come back on the first day of school. Everybody has online portals, and that's how you check your grades, and that's how you submit assignments. Like, I can't just sit here and say, stop using screens. Not possible. But it's just important that we're mindful of it, and that we're good consumers of the internet, of technology, of our smartphones. We have to be in moderation as much as possible. But just wanted to throw that out there. I know in schools it's not talked about enough, but at least at one school for the 10th grade class, they're getting some information.
I think it's so funny when I hear you talk, especially like when you do your TV stuff too. I'm like, man, like we have so many points and so many things that we've grown with together. That we're like, okay, we have little pieces of each other inside of us.
Oh, that's fucking cute.
It's cute.
I like that. Anyway, feel free to continue.
The bromance lives.
It does. It's strong.
So one of the things I noticed with those kids who are on their phone for like 12 hours a day, they don't have hobbies or interests. They don't want to spend time with their family because their phones are giving them so much dopamine, and their phones are so exciting that everything else by comparison is really boring. So family dinners, spending time with the family, board games, anything else, they're just like, man, I just don't even want to do it. I just want to be on my phone all the time. Which I find so interesting. It's not just changing the way they interact with technology, it's changing their entire perception of the world. And a lot of them even they'll say, oh, I understand that the world is where I want to be, but I just can't pull away from that phone, which also sounds like addiction. I've seen young people admitted to the hospital with suicidal thoughts and homicidal thoughts after their phones were taken away. And I'm talking about serious events in which kids needed like shots of antipsychotics to calm down. Yeah. I've seen kids come into the hospital demanding to be diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and bipolar disorder because they saw a TikTok video from an influencer telling them that they had it. I know kids who get multiple messages per day telling them that they're worthless and that they should go kill themselves. I've seen boys and girls who refuse to go back to school after nudes were leaked to the entire school. There appears to be a rise, and this is a data-driven point, there appears to be a rise in eating disorders as a result of social media. Kids are being sent to the psychiatrist for ADHD evaluations because they, quote-unquote, can't focus because they're on their phones the entire time they're at school. And despite all of this happening right before my eyes, no one seemed to be talking about this. It just seems so obvious to me that we have a huge problem on our hands and no one's doing anything about it. So I wanted to use that platform that TED gave me to raise awareness to this issue, to get people thinking about it first so we can start talking about it. And I wanted to question what we could do on a personal level, on a societal level, on a systems level, on a medical level, and even on a political level to try and understand this and reverse this.
Yeah, I think, well, again, I'm biased, but I was looking at the ones that were like uploaded around the same time, and like yours definitely has a lot more views. And I think it's like, the topic is, there's a bunch of pieces to it. There's maybe people don't want to admit that that's an issue. Maybe people are interested in hearing what you have to say, but may have a hard time because they're like, oh man, like I may be part of the problem. And as I was telling students, was it last week? A couple weeks ago when I was giving the presentation again about like internet use, telling them and like being honest, like, you know, when I had my summer break this last summer, this is the first summer I've had off in years. Like, it's been so long. I didn't know what to do some days, and my screen time would be so high, and it was not good. And it's just like, I don't know, but like now you hear certain things and you get more information, you start to like be able to make the most informed decision for yourself. And I think that's really important. Like, part of this show is never to tell you this is what you need to do, this is bad for you, stop doing this. One of the biggest part of the shows is to give you information so that you can make the best decision for yourself, the most informed decision. And at least if you're doing that, like, you've got a pretty good shot to be making the right decision.
I hear you. When I have more free time, my screen time creeps up too. It's so hard not to these days.
Yeah.
And that's one of the major points I wanted to make on the TED Talk, is I share that usually my screen time report is 3 to 5 hours per day. And that's so much time just wasted. Most of that is Facebook and social media and YouTube and just stuff that's not really that important. But so we always like to say, just because we're the experts on this stuff, we're on mental health issues, that we still struggle with this too. This is a global problem, and I don't think we have a lot of the answers. I give some suggestions for trying to cut down on your screen time in the TED Talk, which you'll have to listen to it to find out. But there is no data and evidence-driven solutions to try and stop this or reverse this. We're not even to that stage yet as a society.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a couple things that I've done for myself to try to help. Recently I put like a work focus at work. So the only texts that come through are like specific people. And other than that, I don't see someone's text. And I think that's helped a ton, because I don't get the vibration on my wrist from my watch. I don't get the light up of the screen on my phone. And I think this week I saw, when I got my report, that my screen time was trending downwards. So, just little stuff from there. But before we bless you all with the audio, again, you need to see the video. But before we bless you with the audio, we do want to give you some history of TED Talks, and then we also want Justin to answer a couple questions for us. But if you don't know, so TED, and if you've gone this whole episode and have never heard of like TED Talks, you're probably confused. You're like, what the hell is TED Talks? So we'll give you some information. But if you don't know, TED, it is a nonprofit devoted to spreading ideas, usually in talks that are about 18 minutes or less. So if you look at the website, like all of them are pretty consumable videos, or ones that don't take like 2 hours. Like 18 minutes is a pretty good, and I think yours, Justin, was about 15 minutes. Like they're in pretty good chunks of time that you don't have to devote a lot of time to, but you can get a lot of information out of. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and was created in 1984. They spoke about CDs, e-readers, and computer graphics from LucasArts. And their first event, this is a good tidbit, lost money. So there's that. In 1990, the TED Conference became an annual event in Monterey, California. Fun fact, when my plane got rerouted, did we talk about this? I ended up in Monterey, so that doesn't matter. It became a nonprofit in 2001 with the aim of finding the most interesting people and letting them communicate their passion. The first TED Talks were posted online in 2006. I think that's actually around the year that YouTube was created, and the views just started to pour in. In 2009, TEDx launched, which is an independent TED event created to inspire local communities and spread big ideas. If you are, what do I want to say? I was going to say, if you are a person, you've probably seen TEDx. I know at my old high school that they've had it. I've seen at local universities. Like TEDx is something that they do come up a good amount, which is cool. There's a lot of different communities that want to spread information, that want to talk about things that are going on and give people the platform to do so. Like, that's really cool. Like the fact that, I mean, we have our platform here with our podcast, but that was something that we took a while to create. Like, these are big events that can come up and give someone who may not have the platform to share this information, give them an audience, give them the opportunity to do that. In 2012, TED hit a billion views online, which the song Baby by Justin Bieber also has over 1 billion views. So, like, really, TED, Justin Bieber, like, same. And I wanted to share this last tidbit of information. Besides Justin, which he is the most important here, one of the TED Talks that I've seen that actually does hit pretty close to home is one by a former student at the high school that I work at. Her name is Haley Hardcastle. She talked about the importance of mental health days in school. What's really cool is because of her work and this work of other students in the state of Oregon, it was officially passed into law in 2019 that students in Oregon are allowed 5 excused absences in a 3-month period, and they can either be a sick day or a mental health day. So on our attendance thing, you can identify that it was a mental health day, and you're not penalized in any way. And I think that's really cool.
That's so cool. A TED Talk that influenced some policy and got something done that was so important for young people.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And I think, I mean, part of the reason why we like working with teens and young people so much is they do have a lot of possibility to influence and a lot of power that they can spread their word. They can really influence a lot of change. So before we wrap up again and give you all the audio, have a couple questions for Justin. The first one is, my friend, how much did you push yourself, and was it all worth it?
I pushed hard. Like I said earlier, I kind of obsessed, and I rewrote it so many different times, and I refined it, and I talked to so many people about it, and I got feedback from friends, I got feedback from family, I got feedback from my wife, just to try and make the absolute best talk that I could possibly make, which I'm so glad I did. I put 100% of myself into it, and it was worth it. But I think there's so many things in this society that people are afraid to be vulnerable. People are afraid to do things that they are not automatically good at. So I always try and encourage people to push yourself, do things that maybe you're a little uncomfortable with, but something that's going to teach you and help you grow a lot, because that's what life is all about. And those are some of the most important things that you can do in life, are the things that push you, the things that make you grow, and then the things that you can reflect on and say, oh my gosh, that was so worth it.
One example I'll give personally is our podcast. I was nervous as fuck, and I think I told you, Justin, like it was. And I'm not saying we're like these big name people by any means, but I mean we have a channel and a show that we're really proud of. And I know in the beginning, like our humble beginnings, I think about now with the way my setup looks now compared to when we first started. I had a small desk that I could put over my lap in my bed with like this microphone that sucked and just my computer. And like now it's like we do so much more with it. So absolutely, like when you get the chance, trying to push yourself, trying to get out of your comfort zone, I think it can be tough, but I think some really good things can come from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This one is one that I think is probably on people's mind, and I think I would probably get it. But did you have any stage fright when you were doing this?
It's so funny because that tends to be the first question that people ask. Like, were you nervous? Did you have stage fright?
Yeah.
And I went into it thinking, like, I'm not going to have stage fright. I don't get stage fright. Like, I use this as an example, but I played saxophone growing up.
Yeah.
So I was the tenor one, so I usually had like all the solos. I was very comfortable with performing in front of people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But oh my God, was I wrong? Getting up in front of an auditorium where it's just you on stage and everyone's looking at you and you've been preparing for months and everyone's going to be scrutinizing it. I'm going to be scrutinizing it. Like, it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm a little nervous, but I also kind of love that adrenaline feeling that you get before going up on stage. And like, it's just, it focuses you and it makes you feel so good.
For the 15th time today, am very biased, but it seemed flawless when you did it. So I appreciate you, the normalizing of the stage fright. Well, I've talked too much. I want to give Justin's TEDx the floor. We're going to wrap this baby up. We're heading to it. The audio is coming right after this. But before we get to it, we want to remind you all. Well, first, we want to tell you thank you. But we want to remind you, whatever podcast streaming platform you use, please like, subscribe, share, send it to your friends, send it to 2 friends, send it to someone you're not friends with but you think they need some help. Send it to anybody, and we'd appreciate it. If you use the Apple Podcast app, feel free to leave us a 5-star review. If you use Spotify, you can leave us a 5-star review. But going back to Apple Podcasts, you can also leave us a comment, and we'd love to read it. On social media, you can find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTube at Millennial MHC. That is enough of me. Here's some more of Justin. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for being a follower, a supporter. We love you. And with all that, remember, take care of y'all mentals.